Hi, my name is Karmen Jones. Welcome to Sisterhood in Session. I'm joined with these beautiful and smart ladies today. Thank you all for coming.
It was very proud. That was weird.
Yeah, so thank you all for agreeing to have a real and transparent conversation about where we are politically, in our government, in our communities. I want to start out by just asking, how are you?
All is well. I think I am grateful to be right now, currently, So be all the things, be emotional, be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think I'm doing okay. I feel like the past couple of months, especially coming off of recess, coming off of just break, I've taken a lot of time to reflect upon the past 8 months that we're in this new era of life. And so I'm very grateful for stillness right now and just finding moments where I could just take a pause, step back, be present, and be grateful for where I am, because a lot of people can't say that.
Yeah.
And so I would say I'm okay. I do need more rest. Yes, need more rest.
Yeah, kind of echoing. I think I'm at peace. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky to be where we are right now. And I'm just very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to echo that too. Feeling very zen right now. We're also a little tired. Yeah. The environment, it's a lot sometimes, but grateful to still be here, able to be in this space, able to be with y'all. Yeah.
I think for me, it depends on the day. I'm going to just be very honest, because some days I'm having a really great day and I'm grateful for the work I'm doing. And then other days I'm like, I feel useless. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, okay. And I try to balance the days. But I think for me lately, I had to tap back into God, and I've been fasting, and I've been finding myself a little bit more grounded lately, because sometimes with everything that's happening in the world, it's just like, what are we doing? So I had to kind of tap back into me and what God has for me at this moment.
Yeah, that's really important. I will say, with me being back home, I'm in Mississippi full time. I've been able to spend more time with my grandmother, who's 82, and knowing everything that she's experienced, across generations, it really does give me the strength to carry on in times like these, because for a lot of our grandmothers and mothers, this is nothing new, right? So if our ancestors can make it through it, we got it in us too. So yeah. I want to start out with the first topic on elections, right? There's a lot of talk about the state of democracy, the last presidential election. Since the 2024 election, there has been over 10 books that have been published about the vice president's loss in the last election. I'm sure we all felt the momentum of that moment within our bubble, but Trump still reclaimed America in a way that we might not understand fully. As Black women, have you forgiven America for saying no to a fellow Black woman as president?
I think for me, I had the opportunity to work 2 campaigns, and I had the opportunity to work for Senator Alston Brooks, and she won. So I was grateful to see a Black woman, win, and also, of course, working the Harris campaign. It was hard. It was very hard. And growing up in South Carolina and seeing what played out on television, I was like, will we have another repeat of 2015? And having someone walk into a church and kill 9 people. And I'm like, I know personally with my family, we can't go through that again. Like my sister-in-law, her grandfather was killed in that. So I was like, will this awaken, white supremacy again? I remember it took me 13 hours to go to South Carolina to turn in my ballot. I sat for 4 hours or 95. And I was like, I'm going to do my part and make sure I vote for the first Black female president. And I literally, me and my sister, we were on the road for literally 13 hours. And I was happy to go and vote for a Black woman. But watching, the elections come out, I was devastated. Yeah, I was devastated.
James Baldwin, he said, to be Black in America is to almost be enraged almost all the time. And I think that is what we felt that night, But I guess, when you think about it, what does grievance and forgiveness look like? And I think they share much of the same traits. And with that, you just kind of continue to know how to evolve with this love-hate relationship that you have with America. Because yes, we can talk about the grievance of that night, and then we can talk about so many women that have been pioneers in a space that we can reflect on to know that it's possible, to your point of you speaking about your grandmother. So I think if anything for me personally is knowing how to grieve, but also know how to forgive wholeheartedly.
I would probably say it took me a while. The election results, I was very bitter after the election. I did so much. I went back home. I helped get all of my sister and her friends who just turned 18. They were so excited to be able to vote for a Black woman. And it was soul crushing. And I still am finding myself trying to accept the outcome with everything that is currently happening. I mean, Black women, we told everybody this was going to happen. And it's just like, there's nothing else that we can do just but sit here and kind of take it. And so I'm still kind of trying to accept the election results with all the bad news that is coming out.
I think something that I'm sitting here thinking about is like the difference between forgiveness and acceptance. I think that forgiveness in this day and age is like, no one's entitled to my forgiveness. No one's entitled to me having to say, I forgive you for still enacting violence onto me. You saw it all the past couple of weeks where HBCUs being shut down because of so much fear of violence. And so it's hard to forgive someone for this violence that is coming, has come, and will continue to come. That is the unfortunate nature of how our country has been built up. It started from violence. I think acceptance is where I am. I've accepted that we're in this reality. Every day it feels like I'm grieving in ongoing trauma while also healing at the same time. It feels like a constantly moving ball as a hamster wheel.
Yeah. And to your point about Black women being the backbone, we're the backbone of America. We built this country, what Angela Rice say, for free. But within the Democratic Party, Black women have had a 90% loyalty rate to presidential candidates who are Democrats since 1972. You know, I know the vice president, former vice president, I know she'll be putting out her book soon. I'll be at the book tour. I will be there. And I'm honestly proud of her for telling her truth and speaking to the fact that the system within the Democratic Party is broken too. And I think anti-Blackness exists not only in white conservative spaces, but it can exist in white liberal spaces as well. My next question is this. If there is no woman or woman of color, period, on the Democratic presidential ticket in 2028, are you down or not?
I'll be disappointed, but not surprised. I think that we're in an era where we're seeing a hyper-masculinized society from our conservatives across the aisle, and there is going to need to be someone who can also provide that same type of energy for Democratic side. I would love another Black woman. I would love a woman of color to be on this ticket. But I think there's a lot of healing that our country has to do because, again, we are 8 months in. We have a long way to go. Now, will I vote for that ticket? I think it depends on the policies that come from that candidate. Is that candidate going to be very assertive with ensuring that Black and brown people, queer people, trans people can exist in this country without facing any, now I would say not any form because we can't prevent violence because violence will happen, but he'll hear the types of policies that were broken in this current administration, like, will I see them kind of reverse that or at least create a solution where we can exist safely?
Well, and if my question to that is, and I think an ongoing question that I have is, will that type of change come from someone who doesn't have some shared subjectivity, have some type of shared identity? I expect the representatives of the system to function in the way that they always have. So I don't want to take away this, positivity or, this positive outlook. But I think for me, my question is, can I expect the type of change that I want to see from a moderate white
male?
Yeah, let's look back. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, when it comes to this, and this might just be me, and like speaking to your previous question, have we really healed from, not electing a Black woman? My answer is really dependent upon like what type of America would that candidate inherit. If you inherit an America that is even deeper rooted in hatred, that's falling apart at the seams, where all the systems and the support systems have been taken away, and we were not able to do what you have to do to fix that in 4 years, then all Black women would be seen as failures.
What are the biggest threats and the biggest opportunities for the Democratic Party in engaging young people of color like us?
I'll take the Gen Z aspect just because it kind of revolves around the work that I'm currently doing. Republicans were able to really win over some of the young voters, and it's because they were able to, in my personal opinion, monopolize a lot of the digital space that Democrats weren't as prominent in. One of the biggest things, podcasts. A lot of people are turning away from legacy news media or traditional news media outlets. TikTok is now one of the biggest forms of news for a lot of people that are under the age of 25. Being more prevalent, being more hyper visible for younger voters, being able to talk to them like they're people, and also try to encroach on these spaces that Republicans and conservatives have been able to successfully monopolize and take over. And that will kind of be a little bit of a step forward to equaling and leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
There needs to be a change in leadership. And there also needs to be power to truth. To your point, we can't fight just in congressional halls and through legislation. You have to make that policy feel relatable to younger folks so that they can understand, because they don't care, unfortunately. So you have to kind of find a way or a messaging point to make them care about the policy that you would like to implement and showcase it in a way that they understand. And I think this seniority thing that Dems can show kind of operates similar to a Black church. You was talking about being Pentecostal earlier. And, much of the time it's the mothers at the church or, whomever, and they call the shots and you just sit and you play your role. And I think that is very unfair too. There are some Dems that are out on podcasts, having interviews, or out in the world per se, and meeting people where they are. Yeah. And I think that is important if they want to see any type of flip.
I feel like we have to do a better job with engaging college students. Yeah. Those who just turned 18, going from high school to college. What are we doing to make sure? Because we're now understanding that a lot of the people who graduate from high school are not going to college. There are other different ways to, be successful, right? So what are we doing on a high school level, but then on a college level when it comes to engaging just Black and brown people as a whole? And that's what I love about Vote HBCU. And they go to different college campuses around the country, HBCU campuses around the country, and they just have a day where they're registering the whole campus to vote.
And those years are so pivotal when it's 18 to 22. That's when you're figuring out who you are, what your politics are, what you care about. And I remember when I was at the University of Tennessee, we had to fight to get even your ball card, which is like your student ID. We had to fight to get that included as a form of voter ID, when you go in to register as a voter. Because in Tennessee, do they really want young people out there voting? No.
But I think that goes to your point about actually for the Dems to highlight what are some of the real issues that are plaguing our generation, right? So like, for example, especially for students, okay, you care about these potholes in your city. You don't like these tariff rates going up. Your hair products are so high. What are you doing to call your members of Congress to talk about it, to hold them accountable, to hold the administration accountable?
And Javonni, to your earlier point about the strides that we have to take in order to vote, I think you have to teach your kids about the history, their family history, or what they had to do in order to vote. My grandmother at 82 is still voting. She does not miss an election. If you think she's not gonna vote in Mississippi's election, she is. She's very well aware on who Congressman Benny Thompson is. She is plugged in, and she's on social media, funny enough. And I remember when I was coming home to vote in the 2024 election, I drove 15 hours And when I got there, they told me something was wrong with my paperwork. I remember the stares from folks who were probably not voting the same way that I was, and how I think we've gotten so much into this big lie on the fact that like our voter system is just flawed and twisted. And I think it's caused a lot of divide amongst our community. So I just want people to teach their kids and teach young people about the history of what we had to do in order to vote.
So I am my first generation American. So my parents immigrated here in the 90s, and my mom didn't get her citizenship until 2012. And I remember this day so vividly. I was sitting in history class, actually causing a ruckus, surprise. DJ gets a call from the front office saying, "Oh, your mom's in the front office." My mom got her citizenship that day. Oh. And so just since my very birth, she instilled in me the importance of being able to have the ability to vote and to go to the polls and to learn civic education. And I remember every year she'll call me. She's like, "Gee, you gonna go vote?" Or every 2 years, "You gonna go vote?" First person to call me. And so going from a country where democracy is such a privilege for a lot of African nations to come to a country we have to still go through the process of going through testing and interviews and becoming a citizen and getting that right to vote is something I hold so dear to my heart because I watched my mother go through that process. And so for a lot of immigrant children, that's our story. We may not have the ancestral ties of watching our vote be restricted by, the white American structure, but we do see that with our family, our grandparents, our parents, our aunts and uncles having to flee our countries, war-torn countries, to come here to be able to get the experience of putting their vote in a ballot or putting a checkbox on the voting machine. So, yeah.
Now let's talk about representation in leadership roles. Each of you are killing the game. You guys are amazing leaders in your own sectors. I want to first talk about queerness in leadership because both of you are leaders in your own right in those spaces. Janelle, you're leading Pain and Debate. Jannie, you are the first Black woman president of the Congressional LGBTQ plus Staff Association, which is no small feat. We're going to clap it up for you. Shout out to you. But both of you all are building community. Talk to me about what it looks like and how you are not only perceived, but received as Black queer women in leadership spaces.
Thank you. I'll let you go because honestly, you're running through. So it's been an honor and a privilege of now, I think, going on 7 months into the role, and previously served on the board as well. And so a lot of my community building started with being professional development director and listening a lot to what were the needs of people when we were in an election cycle. Many people expected to, jump into the admin or find some of the other job opportunities. And so having to think so large last year and then going into a place where we had to scale back massively. A lot of my role at the beginning of my term was expectation setting and being honest with people and saying, this is the reality that we're in. It sucks. I feel you. I'm going to help you as best as I can. But while I do that, tell me what's going on. Talk to me, share your stories with me. I can connect you with people, or I can just sit here and, you can cry in my arms. And I think allowing people to be vulnerable about what they're going through is something that I've learned, was the biggest lesson I've learned is allowing not only myself to slow down as a queer leader, but allowing others to slow down because we work in a fast space. And that's helped me build a lot of community because, the Hill people talk, people share their stories, people talk about this person they've met today. And that's helped me a lot with bringing in diverse communities as like Black and brown folk into more engaged in the organization this year. Historically, the Queer Staff Association has tended to attract a lot of like white men. And so my goal this year, having a diverse board, was ensuring that we had people who looked like everyone else on the Hill or looked like the general makeup of this country. And so we did a lot of work of just engaging with new partners this year, talking to new offices, just making sure people still feel seen, heard, and valued. And that's helped me a lot in this role of just being a leader. But I know that in my experience, being a Black queer woman, I oftentimes have to walk into rooms where they may not accept me. And I still have to show up in my fullness because that is who I am. That is the type of, I owe that to my community to show up. And so I'm a believer that the best movements are built in intersections. I think about the Rainbow Coalition back in the 70s, who did a lot of phenomenal work, social political work in the communities. And if we don't have intersections, how are we able to meet people where they're at? Right. And so that's my philosophy when I walk into these rooms, whether or not they like me or they don't. I just know that I owe it to my community to show up as I am and walk forward and bring another Black crew member behind me and say, come on, girl, let's go. So that's how I've experienced this year. And I hope to continue that the rest of this year and just making sure folks feel seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah. I love your heart for people. Janelle.
Honestly, everything, I was raised by a community. Sometimes my mom friends would pick me up from school. I would stay with my grandparents and learn different things from them by picking peas. So I wanted to create a safe space by that where we could, have dialogue outside of the suit and ties or, the dresses and all that good stuff, where it felt like your voices were heard and you didn't have to be at a certain table for this to, be impactful to someone else. But in my own experience, I experienced an intersect of microaggression. So not only am I a woman, a Black woman, I wear my gay. If I say, and I always tell people there's a certain authenticity about myself to where they can see themselves as well. And with that, I think with people, not only have I gotten some of that, aggression from being a Black woman, but also your subconscious bias about queer folks too. So I think I continue to show up in rooms as myself. That's all I know how to be. And whoever is accepting to it, it's always much love and blessings, as I say. And to others, it's still always much love and blessings.
Thank you to Mix DC for hosting us today. This Black-owned hotspot is the ultimate spot to eat, hang out, and enjoy the city's nightlife. If you haven't tried their Taco Tuesday, you are missing out. Their tacos are delicious, fresh, affordable, and perfect for sharing with friends. And when the night comes alive, the music and vibes at Mix DC make it the place to be for a fun, unforgettable night. So stop by Mix DC today, where amazing food meets amazing energy.
Javonni, my sis. You are the president of Congressional Black Associates. That's one of the oldest staff associations on the Hill. And your journey into that role as a friend and someone who observed you reminds me so much of the book that I read back in 2020. Funny enough, a white guy gave it to me for Black History Month as a gift. Oh, I was like, okay, I'll take it. But it was, I was like, if you had your own month, I give you a gift too, I guess. But I took it. Anyways, that book was Stacey Abrams' Minority Leader, where she challenges Black women to not run as number 2, not run as number 3, but be number 1 on the ticket and having the audacity to show up and lead despite the noise and the internalized feelings that you might have or things that have been told to you about who you really are. So I want to ask you, how did you find the audacity to show up and lead despite all the noise that is on Capitol Hill?
Yeah, that's a good question. And to that point with Stacey Abrams' book, she touched on also that leadership is hard. And Joey, you said just a few moments ago that people will like what you do. People will dislike what you do as well. And I think it's tough because you play the mind games, but everyone knows I'm super spiritual and I don't do anything without talking to God first. And if I have his backing, then I know that I'm meant to be there and I'm meant to create space. So also it's a privilege to do it, right? I think back to my grandparents. My family is full of preachers, but one thing my grandfather taught us to do also is, how do you help your community outside the 4 walls of the church? So watching our grandparents, start a daycare. And then, in North Carolina, you have migrant workers. I mean, my grandfather literally bought a nursing home and turned it into a hotel for migrant workers. And then my grandmother taught them how to speak English. So when I say it's a privilege to serve, I really mean that. It's for you to show up as your authentic self and to be there for people. Like, Dolphins, finding people in the holiday, it's a privilege to stand there and talk to you about how your day is going, right? And I think you have to have that mentality when you're going into a leadership role, because they don't have to vote for you. People, they don't have to like you. They don't have to like all of these things. But the fact that it's an honor to be there for people, I think you have to go into leadership with that mentality. But again, I've been serving my whole life.
NJ, let's talk about Texas. Texas is a unique place, right? And there's a lot going on in Texas, but I'll tell you, I think the Black women like yourself in Texas, you guys are showing up in that way when Shirley Chisholm said, show up, unbought and unbossed. Mm-hmm. I think you guys just have it. It's something in the water in Texas, because y'all just have all these phenomenal Black women who are leading the charge in the way that I wish all of our elected officials would do. You guys are leading the way. Texas is leading, for better or for worse, when it comes to the state of our democracy. And I want to shout out some of the Black women who are doing the work. Of course, obviously, there's Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. With the new redistricting, technically, her residence is no longer in her district. You have the state representative, a Black woman who was locked on the House floor. Yep. For refusing to sign a permission slip, which I call it a modern day freedom paper, because anytime you take away someone's bodily autonomy to move from one place to another, it's reminding me of slavery time, to be honest. And you also have another representative who was a proud cornbreaker. I think it was State Representative Jones. Talk to me about, what do you think Texas' impact will be on our democracy as it stands right now?
Right. So this is my answer here is going to be a bit two-pronged. I'll start with the bad first, and I'll move to the good. Texas has shown itself time and time again to be the hotbed for political ideas that come from the administration that they can't necessarily exact at the executive level. So they run to the governor and the Republican state legislature and say, hey, I can't get this done through Congress. I can't get it done at the executive branch. How about you do it? And constantly, whether it be through voting rights, representation, women's health care, and now redistricting, we are seeing this constantly enacted. And then we see it kind of mimicked in other states, specifically on the redistricting, right? Ohio, Missouri, Florida, now all doing redistricting measures, and they've been emboldened by what's been happening in Texas. So it's very sad to see that we're on the headlines for some really, really bad policies being enacted statewide. Jasmine Crockett is actually my representative. So I love everything that she does. And I think she's doing a fantastic job. And I'm so grateful that we have somebody as outspoken as her on the national level. Then getting back more to local, statewide reps, Jolanda Jones, Nicole Collier. When other state representatives were not staying there to break quorum, were not staying there sleeping on the floor, you won't let me off the floor, fine, I'll sleep here. And I'll go ahead and bring awareness about it too. Black women are on the front lines every single time. They're the ones championing and talking about the significant issues that are happening in the state. And so that's why I say it's a bit two-pronged. It's sad to see what's happening in the state politics, but it's also very, very elucidating and very, very, I can't find the word for it now, but it's very heartwarming to see that Black women, despite everything that's happening, despite them firing 300,000 Black women at the start of the year, despite them getting rid of DEI initiatives that help us get into spaces that can better our community, we are still unbossed, right? And we're still making significant waves at the local, state, and once again, the national level. So,
you ate that. And you got some upcoming projects. I'm not going to announce your tea, but
yes, I do. But
but we'll stay tuned. Let's stay tuned. Right. Lynsey, let's talk about Black women and the status of our health. You are one of the congressional staffers, but also one of the advocates on Capitol Hill, advocating for the health status and the advancement of Black women's health. And we are grateful to you for doing that work, which is not easy. If you know, health is not an easy issue area to have on Capitol Hill, especially not right now. You are one of the staffers who is responsible for the reintroduction of the UFIGHT Act, which talks about uterine health and fibroid health. I don't think people know that there are millions of Black women that suffer from fibroid pain, and it can lead to cancer. Yeah. Talk to me about the journey that it took on reintroducing this legislation, why it's so important, and the celebrities that you met along the way while reintroducing this legislation.
Yeah. So, so to speak on the legislation a little bit more, actually I'll go back and I'll talk about women's health more widely. I think when we think about women's health, we know that there's a divestment when it comes to it. We don't pour nearly enough money into finding out, about women's bodies. I think I was, just looking in, there are still questions that people have about childbirth and like how women have children and how, you can go into the hospital fine and then come out either without your baby or without your life. Yeah. Women have been having children since the start of time. And, then we think about things like breast cancer that are impacting women and like taking lives. And then we think about things like uterine fibroids and how we don't have conversations enough. And so in taking on this portfolio, it was extremely important for me and my boss to make sure that we focused in on things that disproportionately impact Black women. She advocates for all Americans, obviously, advocates for all women, obviously. But as a Black woman, how does she throw her weight around? How does she take up space and do it in a way that moves the needle on things? Stephanie Tubbs Jones was in the seat before her, the former secretary, Marsha Fudge, and she really started the charge on, looking into uterine fibroids. She took it from the research side of things. I will not take credit. I'm giving the credit to God because prior to coming into this place, I never wanted to be in this place. And so to have this bill come out of it, it was truly just God, honestly speaking, through me and saying this is something we need to move the needle on. Yeah. So, just in a casual walk conversation with my boss after we left a menopause event that was hosted with Halle Berry, I'm like, I put something on my mind lately. How do you feel about this? And she stopped me on my tracks and she said, I had fibroids. I had to have a tardive hysterectomy. Okay, well, this is personal to her. And then I started digging into it because we know that, women are impacted by fibroids and impacts their fertility. But as I started digging deeper, it's like 80% of Black women are impacted by fibroids. And then a lot of women, as we dug through research, they mistake it as, this is how my cycle should feel. And another big problem is, we can't get correct figures on it because of the lack of research. Yeah. The Stephanie Tubbs Jones bill has yet to be passed, and it's been reintroduced since she was in Congress years ago. There's been no traction on that. They don't have any research into it. And if we can't move the needle on research, because we know how long it takes to get things, once you get the research, what do you do with it? What are we doing now? And so that's how we birth UFIGHT, because UFIGHT looks at early detection and intervention, because you have women who have fibroids and what can they do in the moment. Another diet thing, we connected with Clark's office and her healthcare staffer is amazing, and we're able to have conversations, and we're actually able to bring Lupita Nyong'o onto the hill, where she spoke out about her fibroid journey for the first time. And so that was like a beautiful moment to just have an intimate members only roundtable where so many women were talking about how deeply affected they were by fibroids. And while this is great and it felt good to gather all of these women into this space to talk about it, there's still so much work that needs to be done, because in the Senate, we have a Senate companion with Senator Asa Brooks. And then now they have a Republican on it, but we have yet to get a Republican in the House. Yeah. And it's not because this isn't, a partisan issue. Women are impacted on both sides. So I guess that just kind of speaks to the work that still needs to be done, and it starts with the conversations that they're having right now. Yeah.
Well, we're believing God, and that's the thing is there was legislation during the first Trump admin that we didn't think would be signed, and somehow it was, despite all of that. But I'm hopeful for you, and thank you for doing this work. Yeah.
Down south, it doesn't take the summer to feel the heat, and nothing brings people together like delicious favorites. That's what Chill Pill Concessions is all about. They're a mobile concession stand serving the Mid-South, rolling up with snow cones and family favorites that everyone can enjoy. From school events and church picnics to weddings, reunions, and festivals, Chill Pill makes it easy to feed a crowd and keep the fun going. And the best part? It's family friendly, so there's something for everyone. Kids, parents, and yes, even the grandparents. So for your next event, book Chill Pill concessions and let the good times roll, Memphis style.
Okay, let's move into CBC week. CBC week is almost upon us, you guys. It's almost upon us. All of us have worked for a CBC member in some capacity. So I think that really speaks to the impact that the CBC has had on each of our professional careers, which we are grateful to the CBC, CBCF for these opportunities. The CBC has really poured into young Black folks like us. I want to start off with providing historical context on the legacy of the CBC because they've been a pivotal partner in landmark legislation, right? So when the CBC was founded, right around the time when they boycotted Nixon's presidential address, I think it was the State of the Union in 1971, President Nixon didn't want to meet with them and they refused to attend his speech. And that was in 1971. Moving forward, the CBC has been active in the George Floyd Policing Act, MLK Holiday Act. They're the reason why we have that holiday. So when we talk about people that don't want us to celebrate Blackness, the CBC has been on the front lines of that work. The Affordable Care Act, right? Legislation that is helpful to all Americans and is so important to us because there are people that want to take away access to health care. The CBC was started with the saying, Black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. That's where we started. Things have evolved into today in 2025. And with this upcoming CBC week, I want to ask you all, as folks who have been poured into by the CBC and CBCF, what do you think the founders would say and how would they advise us to navigate this year's CBC week, considering that DC and other Black Democratic-led cities are under military occupation right now? What would the founders say?
The first thing that's coming to my mind is don't allow corporate dollars to dictate the future of individuals that are living a grassroots experience.
That is so good. Wow.
That's that? Yeah. How do you, yeah. What they,
Y'all, it's just, it comes to a point in a time where we can't, because money is the root of all evil, right? We can't allow the dollars just to be our driving seat, and we're in the passenger seat. And I think we've seen that by the tenacity of the founding members of the CBC. And I think when you aren't as radical, there is a driving force of complacency. And complacency is just as bad, rather than just, we're just going to maintain, going to keep it cool. Sometimes we can't.
Yeah. And I think to your point, the founding of the CBC, the founding members, they fought against apartheid in South Africa. They were about the work.
Do this.
They were about the work.
Organize, yeah.
They were organizing. And so while we definitely have champions of today, and this is not a knock on any of the work of today because work has been done, but you bring up a good point. The priority cannot be corporate dollars. That cannot be the leading force in what we do. With that question and with that mic drop that you just made, what should the priorities be for this CBC week? And I'll just start by saying this. I want people to attend the actual sessions. People can complain about, it's CBC week, is this, is that, whatever. You guys just want to party. But there are sessions that you can attend throughout the informative sessions. People are talking policy, right? They're talking about strategy, to your point. But if you don't show up, you cannot complain. The Bible talks about there's a season for everything. There's a season to celebrate Ecclesiastes. Can you get into it? I get into the study. But there's a season for everything. There's a season for you to rejoice. There's a season to cry. And there's a season to harvest. The Bible tells us that. And I think that's applicable to the work that we have to do right now. If we are only prioritizing getting invitations to parties, we messed up.
Yeah.
You lost the plot. You lost the plot. It's not up to a select group of people to lead you in the right direction. We all have choices to make. And I think this year, my choice has been to lean into the sessions, to volunteer. And you might see me at a couple of events. You may not. I don't know. But you will definitely see me in sessions having policy discussions.
Yeah. I would say one area that I really would love to see CBC truly dive deeper in is like workforce. We've seen a lot of Black women this year have lost a lot of jobs, especially in the federal government. Yeah. And so I think it's really important as we are gearing up for midterms and we're gearing up for the next presidential election, we're strategizing, one, how are we going to support our workforce, but build back up our federal workforce? Because we're seeing these different federal policies break down because there aren't people doing the work. There are not people who are giving the technical assistance. There aren't people who are being able to support people who are losing health care. And so we really think about workforce development. We're about to enter a new fiscal year. How are we ensuring we're helping folks get access to the jobs they need in order to make sure their livelihoods are protected? But also, how are we mentoring young folk who are right now still jobless since top of this year? How are we mentoring them? How are we bringing them into spaces? Because it's a well-known fact, especially in DC, that most people get their jobs because they know someone in the job.
That is very true.
So how are we helping folks network beyond the partying, but how are we going to help folks get to the jobs they need to make sure their lives are stable, to make sure they're supporting their communities, to make sure that their mental and spiritual health is clear. So I would say like workforce development is a big thing I really want to see. And then education as well. Yeah. Especially right now with the Department of Education, being in the place that it is, risking of defunding. We're seeing the workforce get crumble. We're seeing these, the Trump administration want to move programs from the Department of Ed to HHS to labor to places that don't have the technical assistance to provide to these students. So I think it's important that we talk about these two main areas because that's the core of this country. If people aren't educated, how are they going to get a job? People don't have a job. How are they going to make money? How are they going to take care of their kids? So I really hope that this CBC week, we're really thinking about strategy. We're really thinking about the long-term plan so that when that day is in front of our faces, we know what to do that day one. And so that's what I'm really hoping for this year.
And to your point on the education piece, we watched this big, beautiful bill get passed this year. And I was thinking about this while you were talking, even from a staffer standpoint, during CBC week, what can we be doing as staffers to actually educate those people who are coming from these states and work? Because one thing I love about CBC week, I get to see all the folks from South Carolina. Like, have your mom and them doing. But I love that part. But then also what are we doing as staffers to actually help educate them? Okay, this is what the impact is going to be on those in South Carolina, right? When I think about tax issues, we're about to see none other the impact of taxes on Black and brown people in the next few years, right? People were talking about the Trump taxes from a few years ago, and we're still seeing the impact on it, right? So I'm just what can we do as staffers to actually help educate those people? Because our bosses do a good job, but we're also the policy experts, right? So what can we do to tell them this is what it's going to look like on tariffs? These are the people you have courts in your district. This is what it's going to look like. To your point, workforce development. This is what it's going to look like on the people in your district, and the impact is going to have down the line.
With a student from CBC Week, I would really like to know how we can organize as a Black community. I think that we are seeing a full throttled effort on attack against Black women, Black men, Black children, Black education, Black business. The list goes on and on. So what should we be doing from now until midterm elections to make sure that we are building up all of these sectors that have effectively been scrapped to bits? And so I would love to be able to see some sessions and learn how to not just organize within my own community, but also be able to your point, educate our communities back home that don't understand the nuances of this bill. This bill was huge. And a lot of part, it was huge. It's a life-changing bill, and it has far-reaching effects from the economy to education to housing. So just kind of being able to find a way to organize properly, both in the short and long term, so that we can be able to protect our own. Because like I said earlier, it's just like a full-throttled attack on the Black community.
Yeah. And, you know, to echo what you all said, but also take it a different way, I feel like there has been a dark cloud looming over DC in everything politics. And so CBC Week, at least for me, has always been a place where I could look forward to, like, wow, it's tired. I sit and enjoy myself, and I can smile and I can laugh, and I wake up looking forward to going and seeing people and networking and seeing people who look like me, because the halls of Congress do not look like this. And so to hear, you know, so many people, including myself, talk about like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this. It would be really nice if we could find a way to reimagine joy, because everybody there works in this space. And it's like the work is a lot. The mantle has been very, very heavy. And I think a lot of people have been feeling like, this might be my time to bow out. This might be my time to step back. We have to use this space as a way to, like, get what we need from it, to have joy, because we can't leave what it's really important. And I'm in part talking to myself that is the space that has always been the space. And, you know, I don't want the current political environment to take away from something that it has always been.
When someone you love needs help getting to medical appointments, every ride matters. That's why families in Memphis and across the Mid-South rely on caring transport services. They provide safe, comfortable, and compassionate transportation for patients, whether it's dialysis, doctor visits, therapy sessions, or any healthcare appointment. They coordinate with patients, loved ones, and healthcare providers to make sure every trip is smooth and stress-free. Because with caring transport services, it's more than a ride, it's peace of mind.
I appreciate you ladies for being here. I want to end on a note of gratitude, because there's so much to complain about. And sometimes we can forget how blessed we are to even be privileged enough to sit here amongst sisters and to have, you know, the activity of our limbs and all these things that we say in church, your right mind being your right mind. Okay. But I want us to go around and name briefly one thing that we are grateful for. I'll start with you, Javonni.
I think I just said it, to be right. Because no, seriously, I feel like sometimes we take for granted that there's so many, like, you know, mental health issues going on. And the fact that I'm able to actually wake up and just be like, okay, God, thank you for this day, but also thank you for allowing me to be in my space and to show up as myself. I think we take that for granted. So the fact that I'm in my right mind, I'm able to make the right decisions. One, with the economy, I'm able to pay for food, pay for my rent on time. The fact that I'm just in my right mind. Yeah.
I think I'm grateful for grace, like grace to wake up every day, to come to it, even when I'm not 100% full, to have the push to be there another day. Grace to show up in my friendships.
I would probably say, I'm blanking on the word now, but having a support system. I think especially now, I've found myself being just really sad about what's been going on. So having that support system, whether it be you all, whether it be my family, my friends, my sisters, being able to have a strong support system to kind of help and be my guide, and a place where I can come back and ground myself despite what's happening. I just couldn't be more grateful and blessed to have that.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, I'm grateful for my prayer life, that God has been helping me develop. I think there is power in prayer, and you know, some people might call it manifestation, whatever you call it, but I believe that there is power in like what we pray for. And I know in this season, I attend Alfred Street Baptist Church. I did not grow up Baptist. I grew up Church of God in Christ. Very cozy. And I think there is a level of simplicity and ease in just being in a constant state of prayer for people that you love, for the world around you, for your safety. And my grandmother prays, and I'm a living product of her prayers. My mother prays all the time. That's a prayer warrior. So wake up in the middle of the night, praying over you. You don't know what's going on. Speaking in tongues, all of it. Right. She's going in. Right. You like, what happened? She was like, I just had to pray. The Lord woke me up and told me to pray. And I think in this season, you know, to your point, Javonni, through fasting, praying, and really seeking God, I pray all the time now. I was on a flight the other day. Do I have probably flight anxiety? Yeah. But I'm praying, and it's easing my mind. And so I want us, all to collectively be praying for each other and praying that things get better, but also know that faith without works is dead. Mm-hmm. And I can pray, but I forget who said it, but they said, the more work got done when I got off my knees. And so, you know, we can pray. That is work, but you also have to get up, and you got to put it into work. You know, you can ask God for the solution, but you might be the solution. Right. Yeah. It's church. It's always church, but I'm grateful for prayer.
Yeah. There's so many things to be grateful for right now. I think the word that sums it up is just life right now. I know times are very, very hard, but to be able to live right now after coming, you know, for now 4 or 5 years off the height of the pandemic, where we're in a city that allows us to have so much opportunities. We're around great people and great friends. I'm very grateful for life right now. And just as much as I want to sit down and cry and I want to call my mom and scream at the world and say, wow, this all sucks, I have to recognize that, like, the people who got me here, my mom, my grandmother for birthing her, my grandfather for giving life to my family. It's a privilege to be existing right now. Right. Like, I never had to experience a war-torn country. I never had to experience, you know, slavery. And so I'm very grateful for this life because I'm able to live freely and breathe freely and experience life and all things to God as well. So, life for me right now.
Absolutely. All of these are wonderful. Like, all of them I resonate with. So I can't echo that. But in addition to it, I'm thankful for a stillness, to just be present, you know, to be present and to be, like I said earlier when we first started, with all of those things, I'm able to love, to be inspired, and also to receive. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. You guys are so insightful, so intelligent, and so spiritually linked in. And I hope that we all have more discussions like this. And if you're watching us, make sure that you attend CBC Week sessions. Like I said, sessions, not just the parties. There are intentional discussions that are being had, and you deserve to be a part of it. And if you can't afford a ticket at CBC, start having conversations amongst your family and your friends and your loved ones about the change that you can make at a local level. Thank you and have a good night. All right.